The original plan was to break up the Wolfpack from the NWO in early 1998, which would put Hall and Nash in the top program working against Hogan and Savage. But Hogan nixed the plan, basically not letting them up to his level, saying it wasn't the time to do an internal NWO feud. I can't wait. Let me wrap this up. And immediately after started the feud, but instead of bringing Savage back up to the top level and leave everyone else clearly in secondary issues. We got a lot, as I can tell by your reaction.
Honestly, Cassio, there's so much diarrhea in that that I can't even see through it enough to respond to it. It's just from top to bottom nonsense.
Did Hulk nix it?
No, that's it again. That's what I don't know if you've ever played poker, but
yes,
if you've got a tell that everybody else can figure out, you're not going to last long in poker, right?
Right.
And if you're a dirt sheet subscriber, like if you're one of the suckers that are stupid enough to separate yourself from however much money a month Dave Meltzer charges you to read his Drek, then hey, if that's what if you like that, if you're entertained by it, and you like to walk around thinking you know shit that isn't true, but you think it is, they have at it. But Dave Meltzer's tell usually occurs in the first 3 or 4 sentences of whatever is about to follow, and because that's his shot. That's Dave Meltzer taking his shot because of his personal animus towards any one individual or company. So when he comes out swinging right away at Hulk Hogan, because Hulk Hogan exercised his right creatively and refused, that shot is what it's the minute I heard it, the minute I knew everything else I was going to hear afterwards was bullshit. Dave is not right in his mind. Dave fantasizes or images certain things in his head, and somehow between being able to form that picture in his head and the time he reaches for his keyboard, he believes it's true. He's not right. And this is another example of him, taking that shot at Hulk Hogan just to get his narrative across. And then everything else that followed it was just there to support the bullshit that he said in the first 2 or 3 sentences.
You said, of course, a lot of ideas get thrown around at different times, but do you remember that being the original plan to break up the Wolfpack from the NWO in early?
Look, here's the original plan, and there may have been kind of separate conversations along the way that were a part of that original plan. But the intent was, at some point, we knew we had to grow the NWO. We wanted the NWO to have its own show. We wanted WCW to have its own show. And in order to accommodate that, you've got to figure out, okay, what are we going to do with this NWO thing to make it work if we're going to move forward with that plan? And that was the reason why we explored and in some cases attempted a lot of different ideas internally within the NWO, the Wolfpack. It was an attempt to refresh it and expand it. That's all that it was. And were there conversations that were part of that goal? Any number of them creatively? Of course there were. But I guarantee you, Hulk Hogan never came forward and said, no, brother, I don't want to do that. I'm nixing that. That never happened. Hulk Hogan used his creative control clause one time. He never even hinted about using it at any other point in all the time that I worked with him. And Hulk, and he didn't say, hey, remember, brother, I got creative control. That never happened either. But with regard to Starrcade and Hulk Hogan and Sting, there was an issue. I've talked about it before. I'm not going to talk about it again. There was an issue. Hulk felt less confident that he wanted to feel in Sting at that moment. And I understood why. So I agreed. But it wasn't a combative situation. There was nobody throwing down, nobody threatening, nobody calling their attorneys. It was a natural conversation that led to Hulk deciding to change the finish. And I supported that change. Not because he had creative control, but because I could understand why Hulk felt the way he felt. At no other time did Hulk Hogan ever exercise creative control over anything. It's not to say that Hulk didn't have ideas. That's not to say that Hulk Hogan didn't press for an idea that he felt really, really strongly about, just like anybody else on that roster. From the bottom of the card up. Some more than others, obviously. But he only used it one time. So when I hear Dave lying, because Dave is a liar when he produces information like this and distributes it as fact, and this is what gets me hot, it's not his opinion. He stated a lie as a fact. He's a piece of shit. And he's a garbage writer. He's not a journalist. Nothing even close. He's just a waste of flesh, and he's lying to his readers and to anybody that hears him talk about this stuff because of it's his own personal animus. So I have no respect for him. Zero respect. I stepped on some shit on my way out here to the bunkhouse that I respect more than I do Dave Meltzer.
Well, this is going to be fun then. In covering Uncensored, Meltzer would have this to say: it's been more of the same with World Championship Wrestling, filled with turmoil behind the scenes and setting records in front of the camera and at the box office. The situation regarding Six, if anything, got hotter over the past week with no explanation as to his firing other than Eric Bischoff was trying to send a message to Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. Waltman, who had approximately 18 months left on a 3-year contract, was given his termination notice in a FedEx letter from WCW Vice President Nick Lambros on 3/9, and immediately his agent Barry Bloom opened up negotiations with the World Wrestling Federation. We've kind of hit on that already.
Yeah, we have.
All right, so he says, were you worried at any point with Waltman's release you would lose Scott or Kevin? Do you think that's an issue?
Nope, wasn't worried about it at all. They were locked up tighter than...
You weren't sending a message to them?
And I told you, I explained why I let them go. I don't send fucking messages. I don't use smoke signals. I don't drop hints. I don't use a fucking Ouija board. I don't try to cast spells on people. I just tell them right to their fucking face what I'm thinking and why. Whether it's a good situation or bad. I don't do hints. Hints are for gutless parasites. I just lay it out.
Meltzer continues, as the week went on, there was no contact between the front office at WCW and Waltman, although Waltman had been told by Nash that Bischoff had agreed to make everything right.
Huh.
That's not correct?
Nope.
Many wrestlers...
You know what? Let me say, though, if I may, as a compromise, I may have suggested that if Sean Waltman wanted to come back under the terms of the deal that we had already agreed upon, that I'd let him come back. But there was no renegotiating.
Yeah, you had already led the terms, like you said. You're already working with those terms, so no need to. There was no renegotiate.
Would I have let him come back under the terms of his original agreement? I probably would have, because I like Sean and he was valuable. I would have done that, but I wouldn't have renegotiated.
Many wrestlers, including some who would have been on the opposite side of the fence as Waltman politically, recognized the problem with firing a wrestler with a wife and 2 children who is rehabbing a broken neck, suffered in the ring, working for the company for no apparent reason other than his friends were in a political struggle with the boss. And this was being done apparently to send the message to Nash and Hall, the latter of whom is in the midst of giving depositions in the WWF versus WCW lawsuit. I think you've covered that's all a pile of shit.
Yep.
Hall and Nash tried to rally the wrestlers together as a power base. The plan got to Bischoff in its early stages of formation. There were a lot of other problems that got deeper. On 3/9, there was a showdown where reportedly Hogan brought up Nash wanting him out of the company, and Nash told him point blank that he wanted his spot, and Hogan told him that he wasn't giving up his spot. Reportedly, there have been some hypothetical talks where indications were given that Hall and Nash could receive comparable money in WWF should they be able to get out of their contract. But the idea of Bischoff releasing them is laughable because both at this time would be more valuable to Titan, which is sorely lacking in wrestlers that could challenge Steve Austin for the WWF title, than they were at the peak of their Razor Ramon and Diesel days. But that isn't going to happen. Before we move further, let's talk about this. Do you remember this? Did Nash and Scott, did they tell them they were coming for a Hulk spot, Eric?
I doubt it.
Their power base together.
Yeah, I mean, geez, it's interesting how much Dave Meltzer doesn't cover the nonsense that's going on in AEW right now. At least not because here he's making stuff up about things that are going on backstage in AEW or in WCW, whereas the things that are really going on in AEW, he tries to mitigate it as best he could while still covering it. The narrative is completely different. To suggest that, I mean, I can't even respond to it. It's so stupid. I really can't. It's just ridiculous.
You don't remember busting them in their early stages of a
it sounds so interesting the way it was laid down. It's like, wow, was it really that much drama going on? I mean, there was drama, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't that well organized. It was just fucking chaos.
He was right that it was laughable that you would release them. That's the only thing he got right.
That would be laughable. Yeah, that would be laughable. Hey, are you watching football today? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm a Colts fan, so that's going to be bad news for me. It's not a good season going on. Not a good season.
Who are they playing today?
I don't know who they've got today.
I'm looking for. I mean, my favorite team is the Steelers, right? And they're not having a great year. And today they're playing Tampa Bay. Yeah, I heard yesterday Tampa Bay's favored by 10 points. I never bet football, but if I was going to bet football, I would take the Steelers to cover at home.
Okay.
I think Tomlin's going to, despite the fact that Mark Madden doesn't think very highly of Coach Tomlin, I'm pulling for him today. Oh, what do we got here?
Woo!
Steelers ahead of Tampa Bay, 13-12. Come on, Pittsburgh. They're at the line. This is great.
Yeah, as we go, Jacksonville is drubbing Indy in the third. So perfect. Perfect for me.
Wow. Steve Kaufman.
Look at that.
Fingers on the trigger, man.
Look at that.
He's rocking it. Well, I'm going to watch some football today.
Okay.
And I'm going to cook me some wings on the Rec Tech.
Come on now.
And kick back and just enjoy an afternoon of football.